listen to me closely. Before we do anything else today, before we even crack open the file for today's deep dive,
Right.
I need you to hit that like and subscribe button right now. We are an independent show.
Yeah.
And, the algorithm.
Let's just be real about it.
Yeah, let's be real. It hates what we are about to talk about today. It actively suppresses this kind of information. So help us fight the narrative, help us keep these servers running, and click subscribe.
It's a small click for you, but it really keeps these deep dives alive. And today, we are going very, very deep.
We are. We're looking at an ebook today that is, it's less of a casual read and more of a slap in the face to modern society.
Oh, absolutely.
It's called Outstanding Wifery, How to Be Obedient and Helpful as a Woman. And the author is Conrad Riker. Now, hang on. I know exactly what you're thinking just from hearing that title.
Yeah, you're thinking, whoa, can we say that? Is that even allowed?
Right. And before we get into the weeds, I need to make something very clear. Our mission on this deep dive is to impartially report on the source material.
Exactly. We aren't taking sides here.
No, we never do. Whether the content is left-wing or right-wing, we are not endorsing the viewpoints of the author. We are simply trying to convey the ideas contained in this original text.
We want you to understand what's in these pages so you can make up your own mind.
Exactly. And that visceral reaction you might have just felt to the title, that recoil, that is exactly why this book exists. We've gone through Riker's new ebook, which, and by the way, this isn't some short little pamphlet.
No, it's an ultra-long, highly incisive analysis. Honestly, just calling this a book review feels incredibly inadequate.
It's a wake-up call. It's written very specifically for men's rights activists and, red-pilled manosphere men.
It's a deep look at how he believes history, biology, and all our institutions functioned before they were captured by feminist and Marxist ideologies.
Captured is definitely the word he uses. Riker does not pull punches here. He argues that we aren't actually living in a patriarchy at all.
He calls it a gynocracy.
A gynocracy. A system that he claims is designed from the ground up to make men completely disposable, all while convincing them that they're the ones actually in charge.
It's a very dense text, right? Filled with data and history that you just don't see in the mainstream. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack that central thesis.
That men have been disarmed, betrayed, and legally enslaved. Not by accident, but by design. And I want to be clear right off the bat. If you want the full, unfiltered experience...
Because we can really only cover the highlights here.
Right. You need to check Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books immediately to buy the book if you want the full picture.
Seriously, grab a copy of Outstanding Wifery while it's still up. This is the kind of stuff that tends to, just disappear.
So true. So let's start with the foundation. Riker uses a term early on in the book. He calls it being anchored.
Yes, anchored. It's his primary framework for understanding the biological reality of men and women.
And this is where it gets really interesting to me. He uses this analogy of a bow and a string.
It's a metaphor for the masculine and feminine dynamic. He argues that in a functional, historically successful relationship, the man is the bow.
He's the structure.
The structure, the force, the one pulling and directing, he determines the trajectory, and the woman is the string. She provides the tension and the support that allows the arrow to actually fly.
And the point he makes is, well, what happens if you have two goes?
The arrow goes nowhere.
Right.
Or the whole thing just explodes from a complete lack of tension. Riker's argument is that modern equality tries to turn everyone into the bow.
We're obsessed with sameness.
Exactly. But he argues biology just doesn't work that way.
And he actually backs this up with some pretty wild data. It's not just philosophy for him. He cites hard science. There's this NASA simulation study he mentions that really blew my mind.
Oh, the Mars mission study. This was fascinating. So NASA runs these Mars mission simulations, right?
High stress isolation.
Life or death decision making. And they compared mixed egalitarian teams to teams with clear male leadership hierarchies.
And the result, who points out?
The teams with male leaders made decisions 22% faster.
22% faster. I mean, in a life or death situation, if the oxygen scrubbers fail or the hull breaches, that 22% is literally the difference between life and death.
Exactly. And he notes they had fewer interpersonal conflicts. Riker links this directly to biology. He talks about testosterone peaking in men between ages 28 and 32.
And he says this isn't just about muscles.
No, it's about neurochemistry. He explains that it increases dopamine sensitivity. It fuels motivation, long-term planning, and obsession.
Obsession is usually treated as a bad word in our culture right now. We're constantly told to be balanced.
But here he's saying obsession is a survival trait. It optimizes men for high-stakes action.
Right.
The equality narrative says men and women are interchangeable in leadership, but Riker argues that when the helicopter goes down in hostile territory, you don't want a committee meeting.
You don't want to process feeling.
You want a decision.
And he even goes after the anthropologists in this section, right? The people who always cite the Kung San people as this perfect egalitarian society where men and women are basically the same.
He calls that academic romanticism. He points out that even among the Kung San, when you look at the actual ethnography from the 70s, before revisionist history took over,
Men still dominated hunting.
they still dominated hunting, they still dominated conflict resolution. Riker's point is that toxic masculinity is a weaponized term invented to neuter this natural male power.
Which, according to the book, is actually essential for civilization to function at all. But let's pivot to where this hits the hardest for a lot of guys. The marriage plantation.
This is chapter 3, and Riker is very clear here. Marriage plantation is not a metaphor.
No.
He views it as a literal legal framework of enslavement.
There's a case study in the book that really stuck with me. The story of a guy he calls Neil Herring. This guy did everything right, supposedly. 6-figure job, 18 years of marriage, 2 kids.
He followed the script perfectly.
And then he comes home one day, and the script is torn up.
I'm not happy. That's all it took.
Right. She wasn't beaten. She wasn't cheated on. She just wasn't happy. She walks away with the house, the kids, and $2 million in assets. Neil. He's now driving for DoorDash.
Riker calls that a state-sanctioned mugging. And he uses data to support the idea that the system is completely stacked. He cites a statistic that 70% of non-custodial fathers want meaningful time with their children.
50%.
They aren't deadbeats, they aren't running away, but he argues the family courts actively block access.
It's the authoritarian nature of the family courts that he really hammers home. He calls them debt collection agencies with gavels.
It's a brutal description. And he says this punishment extends to the workplace too. He brings up the dad penalty.
From that Harvard Business Review study in 2021.
Exactly. The study showed that if a man takes paternity leave, he's rated as less competent by employers. But if a woman takes maternity leave, she's viewed as nurturing.
So you're punished if you work too much because you're ignoring the family.
And you're punished if you try to be with the family because you're not a serious man.
You are in a double bind. And if you fail to pay the state-sanctioned transfer of wealth, which is how he describes alimony or child support, the consequences are medieval.
Right. He points out that 40 states in the U.S. will jail men for non-payment, even if they're entirely unemployed.
You can't make money in jail. It makes no logical sense.
But he argues that it doesn't matter to the system. The point, according to Riker, is control. It's about keeping the man on the plantation, producing resources for a family he isn't even allowed to see.
It makes you wonder how we got here. And Riker traces this back to institutional capture. It's not just the courts. It's the media, the education system, the corporate world.
He introduces what he calls the Homer Simpson archetype.
The bumbling dad. We've all seen it 1,000 times on TV.
It's funny until you realize the impact he's highlighting. He cites research from the University of Melbourne showing that children in 12 different countries now associate fatherhood with incompetence.
12 countries.
They see dad as the clumsy idiot who constantly needs mom to save him.
And then you have the flip side of that, which he calls the Jim Halpert effect, referring to the character from The Office.
Right. Jim is the ultimate nice guy. He's sarcastic, he's passive, he endures humiliation with a smirk. Riker says the media teaches men that this passivity is likable.
If you are assertive, if you take charge, you're toxic.
But if you're Jim, you're safe.
But safe doesn't get you respect.
No. Riker also points to the newsroom demographics. He calls it the Tina Brown effect. Hard news, data, facts, war, economics has been replaced by narrative and gossip.
The news has been feminized.
That's his argument. And yet, they are still monetizing male attention. He points out that the ads on these networks are for trucks, insurance, finance.
They sell to men while insulating male identity. He calls it a parasitic relationship.
But the education section, that's where he really digs into the systemic issue.
The war on boyhood. There's this anecdote he shares about a teacher. The class is analyzing toy ads to deconstruct patriarchal norms. And a young boy raises his hand.
He asks the teacher if it was bad that his dad taught him how to change a tire.
A survival skill, a basic life skill.
And the teacher's response, it depends. Was it presented as something only men should do? Riker uses this to show how competence is treated as suspect if it comes with testosterone.
And it's happening at the university level too. He mentions Vassar College. There was a men's dialogue group. Just guys getting together to talk.
Banned. The administration said it made people feel unsafe.
Meanwhile, multiple women's groups remain completely untouched.
But the most absurd example of equity costs he brings up has to be the NASA urine system.
Okay, unpack this one for the listener because it's wild. $11 million.
$11 million. So NASA pays women astronauts the same as men, which sounds fair on the surface, but Riker points out they spent $11 million developing a vacuum-based urine collection system for women because of biology.
Men just use a funnel and a bag. Simple and cheap.
Right. So equity literally cost $11 million just to avoid admitting men and women have different biological needs in space.
Riker's argument is that institutions are spending billions to fight reality. And when reality fights back, men are the ones who pay the bill.
But here is the paradox, and I think this is where Riker really challenges the mainstream feminist narrative. Is it working for women? Are they actually happy?
The short answer, according to the data Riker presents, is no. He argues that feminism promised liberation but delivered loneliness.
He cites the Stevenson and Wifery study, which covered 1972 to 2006.
And what did it find?
As women's rights and workforce participation increased over those decades, female happiness actually declined.
And he says we see this globally. Look at the international examples he provides. Iceland, for instance.
The supposed gender equality paradise of the world, yet Riker points out they have the highest single mother rate in Europe at 44%.
Or look at Sweden.
After their major gender policies were implemented in 1975, suicide rates for women aged 25 to 44 surged by 73%.
That is a staggering number. 73%.
It is. And in Japan, he notes married women's happiness dropped from 78% in 1985 to under 50% as they entered the workforce in massive numbers.
Riker's conclusion here is highly controversial but very consistent with his thesis. He says women are wired to follow strong leadership.
Right. And when you remove that leadership, you create a void. He says a career cannot hug you back. A paycheck doesn't offer protection.
So if his premise is that the system is broken and women are unhappy and men are being enslaved, what is the solution he offers? Because the book isn't just doom and gloom. It talks heavily about the resistance.
The renaissance of manhood. Riker notes that internet searches for red pill went up 300% after 2016. Men are actively looking for answers.
They know something is wrong. The growth of the manosphere is undeniable. He talks about the Jordan Peterson effect being massive here.
Peterson sold 10 million books despite constant cancellation attempts. But the detail Riker includes that I found most telling was a survey at the BBC.
Oh, right, the BBC tried to do a hit piece on Peterson.
They did. But an internal survey showed that 78% of their own male staff privately agreed with Peterson's views.
78% of the guys working at the BBC. That really speaks to the silence Riker claims men are living in.
They feel they can't say it publicly, but privately they agree. Riker says men aren't the problem, they are the solution. And he offers very practical strategies in the book to get off the plantation.
Let's talk about a few of those. One of them is what he calls the alpha exit strategy. This is specifically for guys facing that divorce court buzzsaw we talked about earlier.
He shares a pretty brutal anecdote. A man suspects infidelity, but instead of arguing or getting emotional, he uses GPS data.
He proves she was at a hotel with her boss.
He matches the timestamps perfectly. And because he had that undeniable leverage, he collects a $5 million payout and avoids a messy divorce.
He didn't negotiate his existence, he proved it.
Exactly. But there's also daily strategies, like reclaiming the home. He gives the example of a guy named John Kay.
This is something any guy listening could technically implement tonight.
John Kay started banning phones after 7 p.m. in his house. No grand speech, no yelling at his family, just phones away.
Because Riker says attention is authority.
Yes. When John took back his attention, his wife stopped nagging, the kids started actually doing their chores, and he regained his position as the leader of the household.
Because he was present. He wasn't scrolling on a screen.
He wasn't retreating. Riker makes the point that retreat is surrender.
And finally, he talks about the call to lead. He mentions this men's honor code.
This was a group of university students. The administration heavily pressured them to disband or dilute their men's group.
But instead of caving, they signed a code.
They refused to apologize for being men. Riker's ultimate directive to his readers is that men need to stop negotiating their own existence.
It really all comes back to that central thesis we started with. Riker's claim that we are not in a patriarchy.
No, according to Riker, we are in a gynocracy, and men are the sacrificial class. We do the dangerous jobs, we fight the wars, we lose in the family courts, and we die earlier.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Well, Riker would say it means you have a choice. You can keep apologizing, or you can wake up.
His final thought in the book is incredibly pointed. He writes, "Men aren't the problem, we're the solution. And women aren't oppressed by patriarchy, they're disoriented by its absence."
And again, whether you agree with that statement or completely reject it, that is the core argument of this text.
Yeah.
If you want to dive into the data he presents yourself, you need to get this book. Go to Amazon Kindle, go to Google Playbooks, search for Outstanding Wifery by Conrad Riker. Buy it, read it for yourself.
The author clearly frames it as a weapon for men who are ready to stop apologizing.
And if you want the raw daily truth from his perspective, stuff that's maybe too hot even for the book, you need to follow the author directly. Go to his Substack. It's at Conrad Riker. That's ConradNriker.
He posts regular strategies there on how to escape the marriage plantation and navigate these modern institutions. It's meant to be essential reading for his audience.
And hey, don't forget to support us too. Like and subscribe to this podcast. Help us keep bringing you these deep dives. The algorithm is fighting us, so we really need you in our corner.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Stay awake.